6 lions surround Marcus Rodriguez in the churning waters of Kenya's Talek River. The matriarch's amber eyes burn with killing rage as she moves closer, her massive paws slicing through the muddy current. Behind her, a 420-pound black-maned male prepares to strike. Marcus clutches a terrified lion cub against his chest, blood streaming from fresh crocodile bite wounds, his damaged prosthetic leg barely keeping him upright in the dangerous current. This is the moment when everything could go wrong. When one wrong move means death by 6 sets of razor-sharp claws. When Marcus realizes the lions think he's the monster who hurt their baby. But in 3 seconds, the smell of medical-grade titanium will change everything. The African sun beats down mercilessly as Marcus Rodriguez adjusts his telephoto lens along the swollen banks of the Talek River. After 3 weeks of tracking this particular pride, he's finally positioned for the shot that could define his career. 6 magnificent lions in their natural habitat, including 3 4-month-old cubs whose golden fur gleams like precious metal in the harsh light. Marcus shifts his position carefully, his titanium and carbon fiber prosthetic leg finding purchase on the rain-soaked ground. The device, manufactured by Autobach International using recycled military medical equipment, catches the sunlight briefly as he kneels behind his camera equipment. He's been documenting wildlife in Kenya's most famous reserve for 8 months now, part of a personal healing journey that began when an IED in Afghanistan took his leg and nearly his life. The Masai Mara has become his sanctuary, a place where the chaos of combat memories fades behind the lens of his camera. Through his viewfinder, Marcus watches the pride's intricate social dynamics unfold. The battle-scarred matriarch, her face marked by what appears to be an old buffalo encounter, keeps watch while her cubs play near the water's edge. The massive alpha male lounges in nearby shade, his dark mane rippling in the hot breeze. Perfect, Marcus whispers, firing off several shots as the cubs tumble over each other in the tall grass. The Talek River runs brown and swollen beside them, carrying debris from unusual late-season rains that have turned the normally manageable waterway into a dangerous torrent. Local park ranger Wilson Kiplagat had warned Marcus about the flood conditions during his morning check-in. "River very dangerous now," Kiplagat had said in his careful English. "Many animals fall in, not all come out." But the flooded river creates the perfect backdrop for Marcus's photography. Dramatic, wild, untamed Africa in all its brutal beauty. One of the cubs, smaller and more adventurous than his siblings, wanders closer to the crumbling riverbank. He's chasing a large dung beetle, his tiny paws batting playfully at the insect as it rolls through the mud. Marcus adjusts his focus, capturing the cub's playful innocence against the dangerous backdrop of the swollen river. Through his lens, he can see every detail. The cub's bright amber eyes, his fluffy golden coat, the way his tiny tail twitches with excitement. The earth gives way without warning. 1 second, the cub is playing safely on solid ground. The next, he's tumbling helplessly into the churning brown water, his terrified squeals piercing the afternoon air like a fire alarm. Marcus's camera falls forgotten as the matriarch's roar splits the air, a sound of pure maternal panic that makes every animal within a mile radius freeze in terror. The mother lioness races toward the water's edge, but the current has already grabbed her baby, sweeping him toward the deeper channel where the real danger lurks. That's when Marcus sees it. Rising from the murky depths like a prehistoric nightmare, a massive Nile crocodile, easily 14 feet of armored death, zeroes in on the struggling cub with terrifying purpose. The reptile's eyes break the surface first, cold and calculating, followed by the ridged spine that marks him as one of Africa's apex predators. The cub's desperate paddling is no match for the current dragging him directly into the crocodile's path. Marcus watches in horror as the distance between predator and prey shrinks with each passing second. Every rule of wildlife photography screams at Marcus to stay back, to document whatever happens without interference. Nature is cruel. Nature is brutal. Nature doesn't care about human sentiment. But as Marcus stares at that tiny golden cub struggling against impossible odds, he's not a photographer anymore. He's a combat medic again, and something is dying that he can save. Marcus abandons his expensive equipment and crashes into the river. The current hits him like a physical blow, immediately testing the limits of his prosthetic leg's water resistance. The device wasn't designed for flood conditions, and Marcus can feel the alignment shifting as he fights against the powerful flow. 30 yards, 25, 20. The crocodile is closing fast, its massive tail propelling it through the water with deadly efficiency. Marcus pushes harder, his lungs burning as he battles the current that seems determined to sweep him downstream toward the rocks. 15 yards. 10. The cub's cries are getting weaker. His tiny head keeps disappearing beneath the surface as exhaustion overtakes his will to survive. Marcus can see the terror in those amber eyes. The same look he'd seen in the eyes of wounded soldiers who knew death was coming. 5 yards. Marcus's fingers close around the cub, just as the crocodile lunges. What happens next occurs underwater, in the brown, murky hell of the Talek River, where visibility is zero and death strikes from any direction. Marcus feels the crocodile's jaws clamp down on his prosthetic leg, the titanium and carbon fiber construction creating a texture the reptile has never encountered. The confusion buys Marcus precious seconds. Using combat techniques drilled into him during water survival training, he strikes at the crocodile's sensitive palatal valve while simultaneously lifting the cub above the surface. The reptile releases its grip, momentarily stunned by the unfamiliar sensation of titanium against its teeth. Marcus breaks the surface, gasping, the terrified cub clinging to his combat vest with tiny claws that dig through fabric to skin. The crocodile has retreated to deeper water, but Marcus knows it's only regrouping for another attack. He has to reach shore now. But as Marcus turns toward the riverbank, his blood turns to ice. 6 lions stand motionless along the water's edge, their amber eyes fixed on him with laser intensity. From their perspective, the scene looks nothing like a rescue. They see a human stranger in the water with their screaming baby, blood in the water, violent thrashing, and a cub in obvious distress. They think Marcus is the threat. The matriarch takes a deliberate step toward the water, her scarred face twisted with killing rage. Behind her, the massive alpha male rises from his resting position, every muscle in his 420-pound frame coiled for violence. The other lionesses spread out in a coordinated hunting formation, cutting off any escape route Marcus might have. "Easy," Marcus whispers, knowing they can't understand but needing to hear his own voice. "I saved him. I'm not the enemy." But lions don't speak human, and from their perspective, Marcus is the monster who hurt their family. The matriarch enters the water first, her massive paws creating ripples as she moves with deadly purpose. The alpha male follows immediately, his black mane flowing behind him like a war banner. Marcus realizes with growing horror that he's about to be torn apart by the very animals he tried to help. He's trapped in chest-deep water, his prosthetic leg damaged and affecting his mobility, holding a traumatized cub while 6 apex predators close in for the kill. His military training runs through escape scenarios, but every option ends the same way, with his death. The matriarch is close enough now that Marcus can see the individual scars on her face, smell the wild musk of her fur, hear the low rumbling in her throat that promises violence. Her amber eyes burn with maternal fury as she prepares to eliminate the threat to her family. This is it. This is how Marcus Rodriguez dies, torn apart in an African river while trying to save the life of an animal whose family wants to kill him for it. The lioness opens her massive jaws, revealing teeth like ivory daggers. Then she stops. The change is so sudden, it's almost supernatural. The killing rage in her eyes flickers, replaced by something else entirely: confusion. Her nostrils flare as she processes a scent that doesn't fit the narrative her eyes are telling her. She's smelling Marcus's prosthetic leg. The medical-grade titanium, manufactured using recycled materials from military veterinary equipment, carries chemical signatures that trigger something deep in the lioness's memory. Antiseptics, surgical steel, the specific polymer compounds used in field medical equipment. The same equipment used by U.S. Army Veterinary Services during their East Africa humanitarian missions between 2018 and 2022. Missions that treated injured lions throughout the greater Masai Mara ecosystem. Missions that saved lives using titanium-based surgical instruments. The matriarch's behavior shifts dramatically. The aggressive posture relaxes. The killing intent fades. She moves closer to Marcus, but now her approach is investigative rather than predatory. Her massive head lowers toward his prosthetic, breathing in the scent signature that speaks of healing rather than harm. Behind her, the alpha male stops his advance. The other lionesses break their attack formation, their body language shifting from aggressive to confused. Something is happening that contradicts their initial assessment of the situation. The cub in Marcus's arms begins mewing softly, calling to his mother with the distinctive vocalizations cubs use when they want comfort and safety. The sound seems to break through the lioness's confusion, reminding her of what's actually happening. Her baby is alive, unharmed, calling for her. The human holding him smells like the people who help rather than hurt. The matriarch makes direct eye contact with Marcus. Not the threatening stare of a predator assessing prey, but something deeper. Recognition, assessment, a decision being made by an intelligence far more complex than most humans give lions credit for. She approaches Marcus carefully, her movements deliberate and non-threatening. Every instinct tells Marcus to flee, but his damaged prosthetic and the river current make escape impossible. He can only wait as this magnificent predator decides whether he lives or dies. The lioness stops just arm's length away and does something that defies every law of predator behavior Marcus has studied. She gently takes the cub from his arms. The transfer is careful, almost tender. The matriarch lifts her baby with the same delicate precision she would use with the most fragile prey. The cub immediately stops crying, recognizing his mother's touch and settling into the safety of her massive jaws. Marcus remains frozen in the water, hardly daring to breathe as the lioness examines her rescued offspring. She turns him gently, checking for injuries, her rough tongue cleaning river water from his tiny face. The cub purrs softly, the sound of a baby who knows he's safe. The other lions begin moving closer, but their approach is cautious rather than aggressive. The alpha male pads to the water's edge and lowers himself into a resting position, a clear signal that he no longer considers the situation threatening. Marcus begins moving slowly toward shore, his movements careful and deliberate. The pride watches his progress, but doesn't interfere. When he reaches the muddy bank, Ranger Wilson Kiplagat is waiting with first aid supplies, having witnessed the entire incredible encounter from his position upstream. "Bwana Marcus," Kiplagat whispers in amazement. "What I have seen today, it is not possible." But it happened. The crocodile bite wounds on Marcus's leg are proof of the battle underwater. The GoPro camera on his vest recorded everything, providing documentation that will be analyzed by wildlife experts around the world. As Marcus receives medical attention for his injuries, the lion pride settles around their recovered cub. The family reunion is emotional and intimate, each adult taking turns to nuzzle and examine the youngster, confirming he's unharmed. The matriarch looks at Marcus one final time before leading her family away from the dangerous river. In that gaze, Marcus sees something he never expected to find in the eyes of a wild predator. Gratitude. 6 months later, Marcus continues his photography work in the Masai Mara. The incident made international news, and his footage has been featured in National Geographic documentaries. Dr. Jane Goodall called it one of the most remarkable displays of interspecies understanding ever recorded. But for Marcus, the technical analysis matters less than the profound truth he experienced in those muddy waters. In a moment when everything should have gone wrong, the scent of healing titanium bridged the gap between species, transforming certain death into unexpected understanding. The rescued cub has grown strong and healthy under his family's protection. On 3 occasions, Marcus has encountered the same pride during his shoots. Each time, the matriarch acknowledges his presence with what can only be described as recognition. A brief vocalization that seems to say, "I remember what you did." The Talek River continues to flow through the heart of the Masai Mara, carrying its burden of flood debris and life-giving water to the animals that depend on it. Sometimes, when the light is right and the wind carries the scent of distant rain, Marcus returns to the exact spot where titanium and gratitude created a moment of perfect understanding between species. In a world where humans and wildlife seem destined for conflict, the Talek River incident stands as proof that healing can be a universal language, one that speaks through the chemical signature of medical-grade titanium and the courage to risk everything for a life worth saving. Some stories seem too incredible to be true. But sometimes, the most unbelievable stories are the ones that actually happened.